America is a land of many different and wonderful places. There are vast forest lands in the east and seemingly endless grasslands that spread miles across the prairie lands. On the northwest coast, there are miles of shorelines, towering mountains filled with tall trees. While in the southwest, the land is dry and uneven with plunging canyons, sharp cliffs, and hills. For thousands of years, these lands were home to Native American people. It was on these lands they hunted, built homes, and raised families. Today, I would like to share with you the story and the history of the Native Americans, the first Americans. One way we've come to know about early Native American culture is through artifacts dug up by archaeologists. Artifacts are things like pottery, jewelry, and tools. By exploring artifacts left behind, we can learn a lot about what life was like for the first American people. You may wonder, how did the first Americans come to live on this land? Well, many scientists believe that thousands of years ago, much of the northern hemisphere was covered with huge sheets of ice called glaciers. This was the Ice Age. The cold temperatures caused more and more water to freeze, and the level of the oceans dropped. When this happened, a land bridge crossing the sea between Northeast Asia and North America was revealed. Bison, caribou, and other large animals crossed over the bridge, and the Asian people who hunted these animals and depended on them to survive followed. The people settled all over North America and formed groups or nations, becoming the first Native Americans. Some of these people settled in the Pacific Northwest. Others settled in the deserts of the Southwest. Still others settled in the Great Plains. And some traveled east and settled deep in the woodlands. Let's explore what their lives were like and how where they lived affected how they lived. First, let's explore Native Americans of the Eastern Woodlands. Each woodland nation had its own name. They were called the Algonquin, the Iroquois, the Wampanoag, and the Cree. Each people had their own customs. A custom is a special way a group of people do things, but each shared a common bond, their respect for nature. And nature provided everything the Native American people needed to live. Many different nations settled in the woodlands of North America. The trees of the forest provided them with materials to make homes or shelters to protect themselves from the weather and the animals. One type of home some woodland people built were called wigwams. Wigwams were built out of trees and bark from the surrounding forests. Their round shape protected them from every kind of weather condition, from rain, wind, and snow. Families would build fires inside their wigwams. The fire was used to heat the home and for cooking too. Other woodland people built homes that could hold several families. They lived in a larger type of house called a longhouse. A longhouse was also built from trees. A longhouse was supported by long poles and covered with bark from the trees. They too, like wigwams, had rounded roofs, but longhouses were much bigger. Inside a longhouse, there were many fire pits, which kept the longhouses warm and were used for cooking as well. Above each fire pit, there was a hole in the longhouse roof to let the smoke escape. As many as 30 families could live in one longhouse. Each family had their own space to live, sleep, and store their belongings. Woodland people lived together in villages. Woodland villages were built near a river or stream, so the people would have easy access to water and fish. To protect their homes, many woodland peoples built walls around their village. Some constructed palisades. Palisades are walls that are 10 to 12 feet high and made out of wood poles from the forest trees. The men of the woodlands also had to be skilled at taking materials from the forest and making the tools they needed. Using a small hammer-like tool made from a deer's antlers, men would chip away flint to make sharp arrowheads.